Hey Bandidos, Tux here. So we got this new gear set called Ortiz Exuro that came with season 2. And if you're wondering, is it good? Is it bad? How do I use this thing? No worries. You're in the right place because I'm going to break it all down for you. Let's go. Hey Bandidos, yeah, so this is the new Ortiz Exuro gear set, and it's a 6-piece gear set. This is not an actual build right now. I'll give you a full-on build that you're gonna definitely wanna run. But for the moment, let me just explain what we got going on here. Let's just start with the chest piece. We're gonna have 20% increased burn duration and then 50% skill health, and then we also get 40% burn damage when we're running 3 pieces. The 4th piece bonus, it doesn't matter which 4 pieces you run, so any 4 pieces will unlock the 4th piece bonus. So that's gonna give you the Ortiz Incinerator turret prototype. So basically, with this gear set, as a 4-piece, you must run the incinerator turret. It's the only way to run it. So if you're not running that turret, then you're not going to want to run a full 4 pieces. So the talent goes, the incinerator turret spins 360 degrees. And if you're worried about catching yourself on fire with that, worry no more because you're now immune to your own incinerator turret's fire. So without this gear set, you do have a limited angle. And so you must accurately throw out your turret to get it to point the right way. And then now you don't have to worry about that. And then the incinerator turret explodes when disabled, but we're not going to focus on that. It's kind of gimmicky. By the way, it always comes with a skill tier as a core attribute. And what the chest piece talent does, it gives you chain combustion. Enemies set on fire by the Ortiz Incinerator turret prototype ignite other enemies within 2 meters. So that's sort of a mini little creeping death effect. But what's cool about that is there's no cooldown on it. So that's the pro. The backpack is, all the stuff is the same, of course. But now you're going to get heat stroke for the backpack talent. This gives you 25% weapon damage to enemies set on fire by the turret. And you can get 25% more range to that turret. So that's pretty nice. You need to know when putting together an Ortiz Exuro build. Obviously, there's many different iterations and versions you can make with this gear set. But when it comes to kind of ranking the pieces, what are the most important pieces to run for this gear set? I would say that the best in slot are the ancillary pieces like the gloves, knees, holster, and mask. Because the benefit that the backpack and the chest give you are not really game-changing enough to override what you could otherwise put there. However, you can be forced to picking either the backpack or the chest piece depending on what other pieces that you run. For example, if you decide to run the vial mask, now you're gonna have to select between which one of these you're gonna run because you no longer have the mask as an option. If you have to choose between the chest and the backpack, I say the backpack is more advantageous because you can get 25% more weapon damage and you're gonna get a greater range. And so the chest piece is definitely not as helpful as what the backpack is going to do for you. And as far as brand sets that go well with this, I think Electrique is right there at the top because you can get 10% status effects. That's the same as what Golan gives you. So Golan also gives you 10% status effects, except Golan comes with an armor core and Electrique comes with a skill tier. And skill tier pieces are easier to farm for, so you can get that status effects and skill damage there, as well as the talent you're looking for. With Golan, you're going to have to find all 3 of those things on a single piece so that you can reroll the core attribute to a skill tier if you needed to. Brazos will also be in handy depending on what kind of build you're running. Okay, let's talk about the fire turret for a second. Okay, this is important details here, so listen up. Basically, the problem is you got cooldown 10 seconds. The duration is 32 seconds. Okay, that's not right because we're standing in the testing range. So let me turn this off, okay? There we go, we fixed it. Okay, so let me stand over here because this is a better place to stand. I look prettier over here. The light just hits me nicely. And so the cooldown's 41 seconds. That's a hell of a cooldown on a turret, guys. So on your ballistics turret, it's typically around 17 to 20 seconds, give or take. So this is twice the cooldown. And the duration is only 30 seconds. Holy moly. And if you look at what each skill tier brings you, it's only duration. 6 skill tiers is adding to that duration to give you that 30 seconds. That's crazy. And the gear set, what is it bringing us? So it gives you burn duration, but not duration on the skill. So there's nothing helping the skill. It's just the 6 skill tiers. We're only getting a 10% increase in duration from that per skill tier, so that's not much. And if you look at your overcharge, that doesn't even help. It gives you 40% more duration, and we tested that. You can't even tell. You get a little bit more health, but the burn strength is the same between 6 skill tiers and overcharge. And the cone angle is greater, but you don't need a cone angle now, right? Because now you have 360 degrees, so you get no real benefit from overcharging this thing. None at all. It's not worth it. Not even to switch to a mechanical animal and kill one enemy to get the overcharge. To increase the duration by 40%, you trust me, you don't even notice it. Test it for yourself. That's our issues, okay? Our issues are cooldown and duration. But I got good news for you. The duration is not what it seems. It's a lot better than what you see here. So let me show you what I mean. So what I'm gonna do, don't worry about damage right now because I'm not gonna worry about adding buffs or anything like that. So when you throw out your turret, it's gonna go, right? And what I want you to pay attention to is the orange bar down below, okay? So there's an orange bar. That's your duration. So when you have no more orange bar, you're out of duration. But here's what's important. You're in control of your duration. You can manage your duration. No other skill really does that. You can't put any skill on pause. This one you can. You can turn it on and turn it off. So what I beg you not to do, very important detail, do not just throw out your turret and let it go to town. That is not how you use this thing. And a lot of people don't know how to use this because it's not that popular of a skill until now. And you will love this skill and you will love this build set. You're gonna be surprised. My first impression, I was super let down. I used it in Heroic, I used it in the open world, and I was trying to figure this gear set out and I was really let down by my first impressions. But boy, was I surprised once I figured it out. And now I'm amazed how great it is. But we'll talk about that more in a second. You wanna manage this thing. And so let me tell you why. One is the duration. A target cannot have a status effect applied if it's already under that status effect. In other words, you can't catch a guy on fire if he's already on fire. So to let this sit here and run like that, okay, and to let it continue to run, they're already on fire and already ticking to death, right? You see that? So they're already ticking to death. If you just let it run, you're not doing anything. Now there is an impact damage, so you are adding a little bit more damage to them. Hey Bandidos, the community we have built together wouldn't have been possible without you. So as a thank you for supporting my channel, I am bringing you the hookup on member perks, including even more Division 2 content and the celebrated gaming music playlists. If you're not part of Tux's Players Club, now is your chance. So if you should see two numbers here, I'm not sure if it's a show. Yeah, so you see the 59, 251. So the 59 is the impact damage. So there is an impact damage from the fire, from the turret itself. Like it's kind of like a weapon damage. It's the base skill damage. And so when you add in skill damage, you're increasing that number, but it's not an important number. The important number is the burn itself. It's the when they're on fire damage. And that's damage over time, and that's what you want to be strongest. When you're setting up your build, the priority is status effects everywhere, and then put skill damage, and then skill haste, if you can add any skill haste, which you should. You don't want to prioritize skill damage. We did test this. You're gonna get greater damage off of status effects everywhere, and then skill damage as your secondary. And then that's also gonna help you with Vile if you decide to run that. It's important to manage the skill. Don't just throw it out there, turn it on, turn it off, and then the cooldown won't be as bad. Most checkpoints only take a minute or two to clear, probably 2 minutes on average. You know, it depends on the checkpoint, right? The cooldown, or the duration, I should say, the duration, if being managed properly, is plenty long. It's not 30 seconds, it's minutes. It's really a long duration because you can manage it, and that's very unique about the skill, but the cooldown is painful. So if you go on cooldown, it's gonna hurt. 41 seconds sucks. So you really wanna think about your second skill, what that's gonna be, and you gotta make sure you have a good team composition. So earlier I talked about this backpack and its benefits. So sometimes you get forced into picking between the chest and the backpack, right? Okay, so for the backpack, one of the benefits is the weapon damage. Just ignore that for a second. Let's talk about the range. Is the juice worth the squeeze to get 25% more range? So if I do this box here on the edge, it looks like we see that we hit that guy out there at 25 meters. Not actually 25 meters because we're about 10 meters out there. That's what the backpack is giving us. Let's take off the backpack now. So now we lose that 25%. So if I put the turret in the same place, notice we can't reach that guy, but we almost reach him. And so what I found is that's not a game changer. That degree of difference, the enemies are always moving. They inevitably catch on fire anyways, is what I find. If you got the hard to reach targets, usually your other skill is gonna play a role there, right? But for the most part, I rarely throw my turret out over me. I'm always putting it somewhere out there. It's strategically placed. And that's the key to a good Ortiz gameplay. And that's gonna help you survive and be really effective. It's all about placement. All right, let's walk you through the build that I find amazing. So in the gameplay you're about to see, in which we crushed the content. Wait till you see how many kills this build got. It's crazy, it's insane. But I do want you to know that in that gameplay footage, I wasn't using survivalist, I was using demolitionist to make a stronger biomask. But after playing, or even during that gameplay, I realized that survivalist is the way to go. For one, you're gonna give your team more damage to status affected targets, but more importantly, it's the fire grenades. The fire grenades are gonna play a major role here because it's like having a third skill. And sometimes it's even better because it's less clunky than the chem launcher is. So you can throw the fire grenade in front of a door where this is gonna be a spawn, and if your skill's on cooldown or it can't reach that spot, maybe you have multiple spawns, then you can catch both spawns that are coming out in the single wave using basically two different skills if you just look at the grenade like a skill for an instance. And so that's great, but it's also going to help with the lefty. The lefty is a way to support your team, right? You can get perfect sledgehammer if they could take damage from a grenade. So there's a way to add more damage to your team. And then otherwise, I decided to go for the Vile. Now we're going to have multiple Ortiz Exuro builds. I realize that this gear set is so good, I'm going to come back and give you more builds, but this is the one you should definitely try first. And so we're running Vile Mask, which is going to give you toxic delivery, basically a damage debuff if they're under a status effect for 10 seconds. And every status effect roll you have on your build is gonna make your vial tick stronger. So this is a damage over time deal. And so notice I have status effects everywhere. Okay, we'll go through all the pieces, but status effects everywhere, that makes a strong vial. Now you're not running demolitionist, that would also make a strong vial, but this is more important. The vial is basically a sideshow to this build. The enemies are gonna die so fast, I almost wonder if the vial is even worth running. I'll just put it that way. But it's a good combo, it's a good synergy, and it does help. It is more ticks to help them die faster or to help ensure that they die. So we are running the backpack, obviously, because we're forced to pick between the backpack and the chest, and I went with the backpack. I think that's the best choice. Then I got skill tier and status effects and skill haste. And then we're gonna have 25% more weapon damage, and then of course range. And then the gloves, we got status effects. I'll go quickly here. The knees, more status effects, and then the holster, more status effects. Again, we tested all status effects against all skill damage, and status effects is the winner. Faster time to kill, higher damage. For the chest piece, I decided to go with Electrique. Golan is another option, and you are gonna need 6 skill tiers. So Electrique is the easier one to farm, and then status effects, skill damage as a secondary stat. You can also go skill haste there. Got skill haste here. You could also go more skill duration, but skill haste is important because I think if you do go on cooldown, that's more painful, and duration can be managed. And then kinetic momentum is gonna give us 15% skill damage to your skill. I think that's second best to glass cannon, but you can also run glass cannon. If you do, that's gonna buff your vial mask, but the kinetic momentum is pretty darn good. I was happy with it. I didn't feel like I needed any more damage. I'm gonna let you know that. I didn't need any more damage. Super happy on my damage front here. So the turret, as you can see, you should be somewhere around, I got the cooldown thing turned on here in the testing range. So it's about 40-second cooldown, 30-second duration. And then I decided to run the chem as my secondary skill. And that's because I didn't want to put all that burn duration and burn damage to waste. And so you know, the incinerated turret does damage tech. As a matter of fact, it takes suicide drones out of the sky. It's like a defensive wall. And it's not perfect. Some of them will get through. Some of them will just take a little bit of damage, and some of them will take full-on damage and blow up. Really helpful to even take on grenades in flight. You just have basically an iron curtain of fire around you and your team. And that is what I wanted to mention, because one of the things you're gonna notice is like, hey, where's the team buff on this thing? Is this a team build or a solo build? As a solo build, especially if you watch the live stream where we were doing the build lab for this, you know, it works, you can, but it just takes longer to clear content. You know, so it's not really a solo gear set, but if it's a team gear set, where is the team buff? Well, the team buff is the turret. So the turret ends up being the team buff, and you'll see why in the gameplay. It's absolutely crazy. And that's because you're really CC ad control, that's what it's doing. And so, and then you're giving more, depending on what your other things are, you're giving more damage to status effect targets and, you know, debuffing over here. So there really doesn't need to be any more team buff. You know, you don't need to give them any more damage. The enemies are just dead anyways. That's 4-man team in Legendary. So in Heroic, it's definitely gonna work. So it's a good gear set. You don't need any more team buffs here. I decided to go with the capacitor because that's more damage. And so you're gonna wanna shoot a lot because you have this 25% weapon damage here. But the capacitor is also buffing that fire and that damage from both these skills really by 60%. That's a big deal. But also more importantly, it picks up damage from the skill tiers, right? So you don't want to feel super weak, and this helps you not feel super weak from your primary weapon. And so otherwise, the Iron Lung will be an interesting one to run with this too. We'll get into that one in a different build. So really good gear set. Stats wise, there's nothing really to see here. Okay, let's get into some gameplay. So I'm not going to run you through the entire District Union Arena run. It was amazing, but I don't want this video to go too long. So I'm going to show you some key fights here, rooms that you are very familiar with, and show you how effective this incinerator turret is. Toasty! Toasty! With all mankind, Jesus doesn't live here. So I'm saving the fire now so I can turn it off. We look everywhere, we need him like before. Look inside yourself, you will find why Jesus doesn't live here anymore. Jesus doesn't live here anymore. We've looked everywhere, we need him like before. Look inside yourself, you will find. Holy shit. Cook them! Cook them! I mean, watch this room clear. I mean, done. And I could turn it off, right? It's still alive. Look at him burn. And you turn it off. That's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. For legendary, that's pretty cool. I mean, talk about a quick ad clear. So I could turn it off, and that's gonna spare me on the cooldown to use it only as you need it. I mean, watch this shit happen. You can use it to ignite your fires. Look at that. No traps. No healing traps. You seen that? Catch them on fire, turn it off. Holy shit. It's pretty fucking good. I mean, look at the chaos it's raining. Turn it on, turn it off. I mean, holy shit. This is awesome. I mean, just chaos. Turn it on, turn it off. You know what I mean? I mean, look at how strong it is. And the reach. This guy way over here is on fire. Here we go. Let's clear the room. There they all go. Try not to get hit by the chungas in the back. Really helpful. Good ad control. This will do great in the new incursion. Got the snipers up there. You see that? Ah, fuck you, guy. It's a lot, you know, wasting a lot of them. Gotta get those medics, huh? All right, let's see what it did damage-wise. 108 kills. Wow. Not bad.
Follow me.